Hi, Gert. What you doing?
You again? Look, you were out here 5 minutes ago and I was making a cake. Well, I still am. I'm no magician. It takes time to make a cake.
Oh, yeah, I see. Well, what are you going to do when you're finished baking?
Any one of the 1,000 things that have to be done before your family gets here. Look, why don't you go read your newspaper?
Oh, I've already read it. I wonder when they'll get in town.
Late this afternoon, I hope. If they get here any earlier with all the things I have to do, Jack, look, why don't you walk down to the station and get a timetable or something?
No, I'd rather stay around and help you.
Help me? You get underfoot, you ask silly questions.
Oh, okay. Fine appreciation I get for staying out of work just to help you here at home.
Jack, oh, no, don't stir that. It's stirred enough. Here, give it to me. Now, look, if you'll just wait a minute, you can be a great big help. There. Now take this bowl and go out on the back porch. You can have all the batter that's left. And you can be even more help, darling. You can lick the spoon, too.
Wouldn't it be great if that gentleman had a hobby? It'd be a great comfort to his spouse at a time like that. If she happened to be listening, maybe she'd get an inspiration from this excursion in science. We'll be discussing a project which to some people is a hobby, and to others a part of their vocation as entomologists. It's collecting butterflies. Our science reporter, Emerson Markham, recently met Kenyon F. Chamberlain, assistant state entomologist at the New York State Museum. Mr. Chamberlain gave him full details. All I know about the art is a picture I have in mind of a tall, thin, angular gentleman with long white dundrearies streaming in the wind, madly running after a butterfly which always manages to escape his eager net. How about it, Emerson? Is that the sort of thing you and Mr. Chamberlain discussed?
Well, no, Bob. That is not the way to collect butterflies. And if you ever see any such apparition, you may make up your mind that he's probably an escaped lunatic.
Well, then, by all means, let's leave the lunatic fringe and get down to facts. How should one go about collecting them?
If you're planning to collect butterflies, the first requisite is a good net.
And a good net, please, is what?
One which is light and strong, with a ring diameter of about 15 inches. The net bag should be made of light, soft, open mesh material, similar to some of the better qualities of curtain nettings. The handle should be about 30 inches long.
Is a net the only equipment a collector has to have? Wouldn't you need something to put the butterflies in once you are clever enough to catch them?
You'll also need a killing jar. This should be big enough to hold the largest butterflies, and it should be provided with a stopper. You should force a fairly large handful of crumpled paper towels down into the bottom of the jar so that it will be tight enough to stay there under ordinary usage. And then just before you go collecting, wet the paper towel with about 2 teaspoons full of ethyl acetate, which will kill the butterflies and help to keep them in flexible condition until you have time to mount and to spread them. Now, you'll also need a large cigar box and a quantity of newspaper cut in rectangular sheets of various sizes from 3 by 5 inches up to 8 by 10 inches.
And now, with net, a killing jar, cigar box, and sheets of paper, we're ready to invade the haunts of the butterflies. By the way, Emerson, where are their haunts?
Oh, they can be found in sunny situations, such as meadows and pastures, where wildflowers are found in abundance, Bob.
So we just hunt up such a place and we're ready to start chasing them?
Oh, wrong. Do not chase butterflies. They're faster than any Kentucky Derby winner. And besides, remember what I said about the gentleman with the whiskers.
Okay, so what do we do instead?
Well, you select a spot where the butterflies appear to be active in considerable numbers, and you stand quietly in one position right in the middle of this happy hunting ground. No sudden movements, no quick motions, just wait. Before you know it, a butterfly will land on a flower right under your very nose.
Aha! Now what do I do?
With one swoop, you scoop him from the flower, at the same time turning your wrist quickly so that the net bag loops itself over the handle. And now you have him.
Therefore, my next question is, now that I have him, what am I going to do with him?
Well, he's safely imprisoned in the soft folds of the net. Before he has time to flutter and to wear away the delicate scales that form his gorgeous colors and patterns, grasp the specimen, net and all, between your thumb and forefinger at a point just below where the wings are attached to the body. Gently urge the wings into an upright position above the back, and then give a sharp, sudden pinch. Just how much of a pinch you'll have to learn from sad experience.
When you've perfected the right kind of pinch, what does that do to the butterfly? Kill him?
No, Bob. Remember that you have a killing jar for that.
I forgot about that.
The pinch paralyzes the butterfly so that he can't flutter in the killing jar, thus eliminating another possible source of damage. Perhaps you will catch several butterflies without moving from your vantage point. And after you've exhausted the possibilities in one small corner of the meadow, you may move on to another. By this time, you will have quite a few butterflies of various kinds in your killing jar. If so, it will be well to select a shady spot to sit down and take an inventory.
Oh, how do you go about making an inventory, Emerson?
Well, if you're certain that your specimens are quite dead, 10 or 15 minutes in the jar should be sufficient. Remove all of the specimens, perhaps dumping them gently into the cigar box where they'll be safe from wind and from other hazards. Then you sort your specimens into size groups. Remember those sheets of newspaper you prepared before going out?
Oh, yes, I wondered about them. Do you use them at this stage of the hunt?
Yes, Bob, you do. You select one sheet of the paper, the proper size paper for each butterfly that you've collected, and you fold them into temporary rectangular or triangular envelopes. The creases will hold the paper in place. No glue or paste, you see, is necessary. Then you place each butterfly separately into its own envelope and lay them away in your cigar box. In this way, you protect your specimens from the dangers of rubbing, and your jar is ready for more collecting. One warning, don't leave the stopper out too long, or you'll find that your ethyl acetate has gone with the wind.
But sooner or later, the butterflies will begin to get scarcer, and you'll find the sun is setting. Then it's time to go home. I'll gather, however, that your day is not finished. You won't leave the butterflies in their little envelopes, will you?
No, Bob, you won't. You must mount and spread your butterflies right after supper before they've had time to dry out and to get brittle. You need a spreading board, maybe 2 or 3 of various sizes for the different sizes of specimens. There's nothing very complicated about a spreading board.
Well, that's good. What's it like?
It's simply made by nailing 2 thin, soft boards to cross pieces at the ends with a space between them to take the body of the butterfly. The bottom of the space should be closed with a floor of soft material such as a strip of sheet cork or balsa wood. You should also have a supply of special insect pins, which are all about 1.5 inches long, but are made of various sizes depending upon the thickness of the wire.
How do you go about spreading the butterfly?
To spread a butterfly, select a pin of the proper size to fit your specimen and thrust it straight down through the center of the thorax or midsection of the body, the part to which the wings are attached. About 1/4 of the length of the pin should protrude above the thorax. Then center the pin midway in the space on your spreading board and force it into the soft floor until the undersides of the wings are just even with the top surface of the board. Have some 1/8 inch squares of rather stiff paper at hand. With the side of a pencil or other long instrument, you want to gently press the front wings one at a time down to the board and pin them there using slender pins. Now, each pin so used should carry one of the 1/8 inch squares of paper to prevent the wings sliding up on the pin. By means of these pins, you carefully adjust the position of the front wings until their hind margins form a perfectly straight line at right angles to the axis of the body.
That sounds rather complicated, getting them to form a straight line, I mean.
Some collectors rule their spreading boards with parallel lines at right angles to the central space to act as guides for the hind margin of the wings. The pin should always be inserted behind one of the larger wing veins and about 2/3 the distance between the body and the wing tip. Now, after the front wings are in position, you adjust the hind wings in exactly the same way, taking care that the front margins of the hind wings slide under the hind margins of the front wings. Your specimen should now be spread on the board with 1 pin through the thorax and 1 pin through each of the 4 wings, the latter well out towards the tips.
Oh, the operation isn't finished?
Oh, no, Bob. Next, you lay a narrow strip of paper over the wings, parallel with and adjacent to the body on each side. Pin through both paper, strip, and wings, always inserting your pins just behind the large wing veins, which act as a brace and prevent the pins from tearing the delicate membranes. Now you remove the original 4 pins with their little squares of paper. Next, you want to cover the remaining exposed portions of the wings with 2 additional strips of paper. And then you want to pin, as we've described before, and the spreading job is done. Specimens and boards should be laid away in a safe, dry place for several days, after which the butterfly should be dry enough to remove from the boards.
Is that hard to do? Remove them, I mean?
No, really, it's simply a reverse operation. That is, you want to remove the paper strips first, and then lift the specimen from the board by means of the single pin through the thorax. You should now have a perfect specimen with wings in a natural, symmetrical position, ready to pin away in your permanent collection boxes. It's a good plan to keep a supply of naphthalene flakes in your boxes of specimens since there is danger that other insects will get in and destroy the butterflies.
Well, thank you, Emerson, and our thanks to Mr. Chamberlain, too, for setting us wise to the know-how of collecting. And, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to have a copy of a paper by Kenyon F. Chamberlain, Assistant State Entomologist of the New York State Museum, which contains the details on butterfly collecting, which we've just discussed, all you have to do to get one is to address your request to Excursions in Science, in care of the station to which you are now listening, asking for scientific paper number 211, Collecting Butterflies. That's scientific paper number 211, Collecting Butterflies. It will be sent to you free of charge. And now, once again, we've come to that portion of our program which is regularly devoted to the answering of the scientific questions which you listeners have sent in. The answers you will hear reflect the best and most modern information available, since they are based on facts provided by staff members of the General Electric Research Laboratory or other equally reliable sources. Ready, Emerson? Well, let's get down to cases with this first communication from a young gentleman who tells us he's a pupil in the 7th grade and is interested in the subject of the removal and culture of body organs. His class has been studying about Alexis Carrel's experiments, and as a result, he has 2 questions which he'd like us to answer. The first one is, how can a person take a heart from an unhatched chicken?
It is perfectly possible to remove the heart from the unhatched chicken any time after the 3rd day that it has begun to hatch. As it takes 21 days for the embryo to hatch, this means that this may be accomplished any time between the 3rd and the 21st day. Of course, the embryo heart is very small and can just be seen with the naked eye and would not fit an older chicken.
And here's his second question. Can this heart be put into a chicken that has just died? And if so, can the chicken live?
It depends upon the size of the chicken in question, Bob. Of course, the tiny heart wouldn't do for a large chicken. Now, this has never been accomplished, so far as we know, it's conceivable that the heart of one animal could be substituted for that of another, but it is also most probable that surgical skill would be taxed to its very limits. It has been shown that it is possible to replace certain animal members with those of an embryo, as in the case of a frog or lizard. The leg has been taken from a frog's embryo and grafted to the body of another frog or another batrachian whose leg was amputated, and this was done with young embryos. Thus, the replacement of hearts is not, well, shall we say, impossible, but the complications involved make the operation a little more than a research problem at the present time.
Well, I think that covers that subject very well, Emerson. This next query is from a gentleman who asks, on a train track running directly north and south, which rail will wear out sooner under normal usage, and why?
We'll assume that our friend has in mind the wear on the rails due to lateral acceleration of the trains by the Earth's rotation. Now, if it is assumed that such wear would be appreciable and that the same number of trains run in each direction, well, then the wear on the 2 rails should be equal.
How do you reach that conclusion?
The trains running south will be laterally accelerated by the Earth's rotation, and this will produce wear on the west rail. But trains running north will be equally decelerated, and this should produce equal wear on the east rail. The wear on both rails should be greater on the northern part of the line, since the rate of lateral acceleration and deceleration is greater there.
Next we have this one. The man wonders why it is that one feels colder on a cold, damp day than on a day of the same temperature but with dry air.
There are probably 2 principal reasons for that. First of all, the damp air is a better conductor of heat than the dry air, so that heat is taken away from the surface of the skin more quickly by damp air. Then, too, the skin itself becomes a slightly better conductor of heat when it is moist. Dry skin is an excellent insulator and retains the body heat better. We might sum it up by saying that it's possible to have relative differences between dry and moist air, which would make a difference in comfort.
Well, our consciences will be giving us little in the way of comfort if we overstay our time. So I'd better just say thank you, Emerson Markham, and goodbye, everyone, until our next excursion in science.